Today we are going to be doing some worksheets on fractions. We're going to be taking word problems and putting them in fraction form, and then we're going to make sure that we're simplifying those answers. So on worksheet 1, problem number 1, Fran baked 12 lemon tarts for her son Bob. He gobbled up 4 tarts. What fraction of lemon tarts did Bob eat? Okay, so we know that we're going to be simplifying fractions. Let me throw that marker away. I tried to use it yesterday and it didn't work. All right, so we know we're going to be simplifying fractions. So we're going to first look at our word problem, and it says that Fran baked 12 lemon tarts and her son ate 4. So he ate 4/12 of the lemon tarts. This is the part, that's the part he ate, and this is the whole. That's how many there were to begin with. So we know that that's the part of the whole lemon cake tarts that he ate. And then it says that we're going to simplify these. So he did eat 4/12, but we have to remember to always make sure our answer is in simplest form. Is there anything that these two can be divided by evenly with no remainder? Okay, we know that 4 is divisible by 2, and so is 12. So we will divide those. 4 divided by 2 would leave us 2. 12 divided by 2 would leave us with 6. Now, sometimes we have to simplify down more than just one time, because if we look at this, we can also see that now the 2 and 6 are both divisible by 2. So if we divide both of them by 2, because remember we always have to divide with the same number, 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So our final answer for this problem of the simplified fraction of how many tarts Bob ate is 1/3. On number 2, again, we are trying to find the fraction in simplest form. So we know we're looking for a fraction. And we're going to look at part versus the whole. Gina travels a distance of 7 miles to reach home. The bus ride covers 5 miles. She then walks 2 miles to reach her home. What fraction of miles does Gina travel by bus? So first of all, it's usually easier to find the whole first. So I'm going to look for the whole. And in all, the whole distance of to reach her home is 7 miles. And then the question asks, what fraction of miles does Gina travel by bus? Now, it's very important that you always read your question very, very carefully, because a lot of times they throw in an extra number just to throw you off. We have a number 7, a number 5, and a number 2. And if we look at that carefully, we know that we can throw out the number 2, because that has to do with how far she walked, and it didn't ask us anything about walking. It just wanted to know the fraction of miles that Gina traveled by bus. So if it was 7 whole miles for the whole trip, the part that was on the bus is 5. So 5/7 is the fraction of miles that she goes on the bus. And then we need to look and see if it can be simplified. Is there any number that I can divide 5 and 7 both by and get no remainder? And if I look at that, the only number that I could divide them both with and not get a remainder is 1. But if I did that, I would just end up with the same answer. So there's nothing else that I can use to divide them. So that would be the final answer. Gina travels 5/7 of a mile by bus. All right, number 3. On number 3, Anne has 24 pencils in a box. 18 pencils have number 2 marked on them, and the 6 are marked with the number 3. What fraction of pencils are marked with number 3? So we've got a lot of numbers in this one, so we need to look at this very carefully. We know that we're looking for a fraction, and we're trying to figure out part versus the whole. And we said the whole is usually easiest to find to start with in our word problem. So if I look through there, I know that she had 24 pencils in the whole box. So there's the bottom part of my fraction. And then my question asks me what fraction of pencils are marked as number 3. So I really have to look at my question carefully. It throws some extra numbers in there for me. 18 pencils are marked number 2. Our question didn't ask about the ones that were marked number 2, did they? So we can throw out the 18. And the number that were, how many were marked number 3? Well, it says that 6 were marked number 3. So 6/24 is the fraction that's marked number 3, but I always want to make sure that my answer is in simplest form. So is there any number that I can divide 6 and 24 by and get 0 remainder? Okay, they're both even numbers, so I know that I can divide them both by 2. They're both divisible by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 24 divided by 2. And remember, if you're not sure, don't guess. Just go to the side and, oh, not 12. That's going to be my answer. I just gave y'all that, didn't I? Okay, 24 divided by 2. 2 will go into 2 one time. 1 times 2 is 2. I subtract. And I have this 4 that I have to bring down. 2 goes into 4 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4. I subtract, and I get 0 remainder. So 24 divided by 2 is 12. Again, I have to look and see, is there any number that I can divide them both by and get a 0 remainder? I've been using 2 a lot. But 3 divided by 2, that'll give me a remainder, won't it? So let me go up to the next number, 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So, all right, I can use 3. I have to be able to divide them both by the same number and get a 0 remainder. And we just said 3 divided by 3, we know is 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Now, 1/4, that's in simplest form, because if I have a 1 there, there's nothing else I can divide by and get anything lower than a 1. So 1/4 of the pencils are marked number 3. All right, the next one, excuse me, number 4. Dylan has a total of 25 marbles. He gives 5 marbles to his sister, Jane. What fraction of marbles did Jane receive? Okay, again, we're looking for a fraction. We're looking for what part of the whole numbers. Okay, altogether, it tells me that Dylan had a total of 25 marbles. So he had 25 as his whole number of marbles, and he gave 5 to his sister Jane. So the part that he gave to Jane was 5. So the fraction that Jane received was 5/25. So then I have to make sure it's in simplest form. Is there any number that will go into 5 and 25 evenly with no remainder? Well, I know it's not 2 because that wouldn't be even for either one of them. 5's not divisible by 3. 25 isn't either. 4, but 5. 5 divided by 5. Anytime something ends with 5, we know it's divisible by 5. So So 5 divided by 5 is 1. 25 divided by 5 is 5. And remember, once we have a 1 on the end, anytime we get a 1 on the end, and that's not always going to have a 1 if it's in simplest form, but anytime you do reach a 1, it's definitely in simplest form. So we have 1/5 of the marbles were given to Jane. All right, the next one, number 5. Emily places 15 roses in a beautiful glass vase. And if you want to be fancy, a vase. It holds 6 yellow roses and 9 red roses. What fraction of roses are red? So first of all, again, we know we're looking for a fraction. So we're looking at the part of the roses versus the whole amount of roses. The whole amount of roses that Emily had was 15. And then the question asks us what part or fraction of those roses were red. So if I look at my problem carefully, it's giving me an extra number. So the number that I can throw out is 6 because it has to do with yellow roses. And my question didn't ask me anything about yellow roses, it just asked me about red roses. So the fraction or the part of the roses that is red is 9. So 9/15 of the roses are red. But it wants me to put my answer in simplest form. So I have to look at my two numbers and see, is there anything that both 9 and 15 can be divided by and get a 0 remainder? Well, I know it's not 2 because they're not even numbers. And they both don't end in 5, so it's not 5. But let me try something in between. Let's try 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5. So I've got it simplified once. Doesn't have a 1 in it, but remember I said that it doesn't have to have a 1 to be in simplest form, but anytime you get to a 1, you're definitely in simplest form. So is there any number that I can divide both of these by and get a 0 remainder? Neither one of them are divisible by 2, and we could divide 3 by 3 and get 1, but we would have a remainder if we tried to divide 5 by 3. So this answer is now in simplest form. 3/5 of the roses are red. And I'm just going to erase this part. I'm going to leave that up there because that's what we're doing when we're working on simplifying a fraction. We're finding part of the whole. Okay, on number 6. John owns a total of 14 pairs of socks, of which 7 pairs are black and the rest are blue. What fraction of pairs of socks are blue? Okay, this one. We're really going to have to read this one carefully, aren't we? Okay, so we know we're doing a fraction and we're looking for part of the whole. Okay, the whole pairs of socks that he has he has 14 pairs of socks. So the whole number of socks that he has is 14. And so now the question asked, what fraction are blue? So we have to look at that and see what part are blue. And all it says is about the blue is the rest are blue. Didn't give us a number. But can we figure out the number? Yeah, we know he had 14 pairs in all, and 7 of them were black. So if I take away the 7 that were black, 14 minus 7 leaves me 7. So there's also 7 pairs that are blue. All right, so we have our fraction. 7/14 of the socks are blue, but we need to make sure that it's in simplest form. So we just kind of have to look at it and start, okay, is there any number that I can divide them both by and get 0 remainder? Well, 7's not divisible by 2, I'd have a remainder. It's not divisible by 3, I'd have a remainder. It's not divisible by 4, I'd have a remainder, or 5, or 6. Are they both divisible by 7? If I divide 7 divided by 7 and 14 divided by 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 14 divided by 7 is 2. So yeah, I can divide them both by 7 and get simplest form, because we said anytime you reach a 1, you know you're in simplest form. Doesn't always have to have a 1 in it, but if you do reach 1, you know it's in simplest form. So 1/2 of John's socks are blue. Okay, and number 7. Zoe spotted a total of 39 parrots in an aviary. And an aviary, if you've ever been to the zoo, you know, like the big glass buildings. It's kind of like a greenhouse, except it's for plants and animals. So that's what an aviary is. Okay, so she spotted 39 parrots in an aviary at the San Diego Zoo. She counted 18 macaws and 21 cockatoos. What fraction of macaws did Zoe spot at the aviary? So we know we're looking for the part that's macaws, but first let's look for how many whole. All the parrots she saw in total was 39. Okay, and now we want the part that was macaws. So it gives me some extra numbers in there. So we can throw out 21 because that has to do with cockatoos. But it says she counted 18 macaws. Okay, so now I know that 18 39ths were macaws, and I need to see, is there anything that I can divide both of these numbers by and get a 0 remainder? Well, I know it's not 2, because 39 is not an even number, so it's not divisible by 2. So 3, I know 3 will go into 18 6 times, so that works. And since 3 and 9 are both divisible by 2, I wonder if that'll work for 39. Let's go over here to the side and see if 39 can be divided by 3 and get a 0 remainder. 3 goes into 3 one time. 1 times 3 is 3. I subtract, I get a 0. I still have to bring down my 9. 3 goes into 9 3 times. And 3 times 3 is 9. I subtract and I get 0. So yeah, 39 is also divisible by 3. So I can do 18 divided by 3 and 39 divided by 3. We said just for mental math a minute ago, that's how we decided to use 3. We knew that 18 was divisible by 3. 6 times 3 is 18. So we were just testing here. Sometimes math is about trial and error. That's why we work in pencil. 39 divided by 3, we found out, is 13. So now we just need to see, it doesn't have a 1 in it, but remember that doesn't always mean it's not in simplest form. It just means it definitely is if you get a 1. Okay, is there any number that will go into 6 and 13 and get a 0 remainder? I know it's not 2 because 2 doesn't go into 13 evenly, or 3. 4 would give me a remainder on both of them. 5 would give me a remainder on both of them. The last option I have is 6. It would go into 6 evenly, but it won't go into 13. So yeah, 6 over 13 is my final simplified answer. There's no other number that I can divide both of them by and get a 0 remainder. Okay, so we finished up on worksheet 1. Let's move on to worksheet 2. Okay, on worksheet 2, it says Fiona spent 50 minutes to complete her homework. She spent 30 minutes on her math assignment and 20 minutes on her science assignment. What fraction of the time did Fiona spend on her math assignment? So, again, they gave us several numbers, and we're only looking for 2 because we're just doing a fraction. So let's look at it and see what number we can throw out. It says our question's asking us how much time she spent on math. So we can throw out the 20 because that 20 minutes was spent on science. So we can throw that number out. So then we're just left with the other 2 numbers. The whole amount of time that she spent studying was 50 minutes.